I started my job as a night nurse at the old hospital just a few months ago. I needed the money, and I really wanted to help patients. I thought I was experienced enough to handle it. Honestly, I've never stopped thinking about what I saw and heard during those shifts. The place was built in the 1960s. The walls were worn down, and the floors squeaked under my feet. There weren't many patients, so the long, empty corridors felt frozen in time. On my first night, I settled into the quiet, ready for the usual checks. The stillness felt unsettling, but I figured it was just part of the job. Around midnight, I heard something strange. It was soft, like a piano playing somewhere far away. I thought maybe it was an old recording from a forgotten room. For a moment, I felt comforted. I decided to find the sound. As I walked closer, the music stopped abruptly. I stood in silence, feeling a chill run down my spine. Maybe it was just my imagination. The next few nights were odd. I noticed lights flickering in rooms that were supposed to be empty. I tried to brush it off as faulty wiring or tired eyes. But then, shadows darted quickly down the hall, just out of sight. My heart raced more than once. I was supposed to keep my cool, but maybe I was losing my grip. One night, while cleaning out a closet, I found old patient records. The notes were bizarre, detailing strange treatments and cases that ended mysteriously. A knot formed in my stomach. I couldn't shake the feeling that there were stories buried in those walls, stories that shouldn't be told. On another shift, I was in a patient room, reading a chart, when I heard whispering. I turned around, but there was no one there. Cold sweat dripped down my back. I thought maybe I was just tired or hearing things, but I couldn't ignore it. I was the only one on duty. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Then one night, I saw a figure through the glass of a door. It stood there, facing away from me. I thought it was a patient who had wandered out of bed. I walked to the door, heart pounding. I knocked softly, asking if they were okay. No response. I reached for the handle and opened the door, but nothing was there. Just emptiness. On my last shift, I heard the piano again. This time, the sound pulled me in, like it wanted me to come closer. I stepped into the darkness, but the music stopped suddenly. I turned to leave, and I swear I heard a voice behind me, asking, "Why are you here?" My heart dropped. When I looked back, the hallway was empty. I still remember that first night. I can't help but wonder what really happened in that hospital. What was real and what wasn't? I don't think I'll ever know.
For sure. The days after my last shift were a blur. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had left something behind at the old hospital, something important. I tried to keep myself busy, but flashes of those strange occurrences haunted me. I admit, I was terrified to go back, yet I felt drawn to the mystery surrounding that place. Curiosity got the better of me. One evening, I decided to return. Armed with a flashlight and my phone, I carefully stepped through the familiar hospital entrance. The quiet chilled me to the bone. I hadn't expected the darkness to feel so oppressive. I moved slowly, retracing my steps from before. I felt like I was walking through a ghost town. My footsteps echoed louder than I remembered, amplifying my anxiety. I headed directly to the area where I had heard the piano. The corridor stretched long ahead, dimly lit, and I could almost hear the notes again, teasing me from the depths of my memory. As I approached the door to the old music room, I hesitated. Maybe I was being foolish. Yet the pull was undeniable. I had to know what was happening here. I opened the door cautiously. The room was empty, but I closed my eyes, envisioning the scene from before. Then I heard it, a piano note, faint but clear. My heart raced as I stepped inside. I swung my flashlight around, but all I found was dust and cobwebs. It was just a room filled with old chairs and broken instruments. Just as I began to turn away, I caught a glimpse of something on the floor. It was a tiny, tarnished key. I leaned down to pick it up, feeling its weight in my palm. Was this a clue? My mind raced with possibilities. I pocketed the key, sensing it might lead to more answers. Suddenly, the lights flickered overhead. My pulse quickened. I shot my gaze around the room, and I almost dropped the key. In the corner, I saw a shadow dart. I squinted, my breath caught in my throat. What was lurking in the darkness? Before I could process what I saw, the door slammed shut behind me. Panic surged. I rushed to it, but it wouldn't budge. I could feel a presence in the room, something watching me. The air felt thick, almost suffocating. Then I heard the whisper again, clearer this time, echoing from the shadows. Help us. My heart raced as I searched for the source. I felt cold fingers brush against the back of my neck, and I spun around, but no one was there. In that moment, the key felt heavier in my pocket. I realized the whispers weren't just echoes of my own fear. Something wanted to communicate. My instincts screamed to leave, yet my curiosity pinned me in place. With a swift movement, I pulled the key out of my pocket. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice shaky. The whisper became
a frantic chorus filling the room. I couldn't understand the words, but the urgency was clear. The shadows twisted, and the darkness seemed to close in on me. I had to escape. I charged at the door again, panic fueling me. Just as I pushed against it one last time, it swung open, and I stumbled backward into the hallway. I took a moment to gather myself before bolting out of the hospital. I didn't look back until I reached my car. I was shaking. I had found a key, but what it opened, I didn't know. As I drove away, the whispers followed me, lingering in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was waiting in that hospital wasn't finished with me yet. I had no choice but to go back. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the whispers replayed in my mind, echoing that chilling plea, "Help us." I knew I couldn't ignore it. The very next day, I gathered my courage and returned to the old hospital with a determination that bordered on madness. This time, I wasn't just armed with a flashlight and my phone. I had done some research and discovered that the hospital had been closed for years, but the music room still held stories. They said sometimes the past refused to stay buried. I stepped through the entrance, and the familiar chill wrapped around me, though this time it felt like a shroud I could not shake off. I made my way to the music room quickly, now more familiar with the layout. I held the tiny key tightly, feeling its cold metal against my palm. Maybe I was foolish again, but I felt it was meant for something significant. When I reached the old door, it looked the same, but something felt different. The air was heavy with anticipation. I turned the key over in my fingers, trying to see if I could discern any lock nearby. No sooner had I finished my search than I heard the piano again. This time, it played a haunting melody, one I recognized but could not place. I felt drawn to it, an invisible string tugging at my chest. Then, the shadows in the room began to shift, and I caught movement from my peripheral vision. A figure emerged, blurred and formless at first, but it gradually took shape. My heart dropped as I realized it was a woman, her face obscured by shadows. "Please," she whispered, "help us find it." "Find what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The presence felt desperate, more than just a lingering spirit. The figure flickered like a faulty light bulb, and I could see the outline of a dress, tattered and old. "The music box," she urged, her voice breaking. My mind raced. What was this music box? Why did it matter? Before I could gather my thoughts, the shadows twisted into a whirlwind of dark tendrils, swirling around me. I felt a pressure on my chest, pulling me back toward the doorway I had just come through. The urgency of the whispers contorted into panic. "Please, you're our only chance."
the woman cried, her voice piercing through the chaos. I began to tremble, the weight of the moment crashing down on me. With every ounce of determination, I pulled free and focused on the key in my hand. "Where do I find it?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. The shadows froze, and then, slowly, they pointed toward the far wall, flickering ominously. The key started to feel warm in my hand. I ran to the indicated wall, heart racing. My fingers fumbled against the peeling paint, and I noticed a slight indentation, a hidden door framed by shadows. Should I use the key? I hesitated. Fear clawed at me, but the urgency and the whispers pushed me on. That's when I saw it. A small, square lock nestled in the door. I inserted the key, praying it would work. As I turned it, an ear-splitting crack echoed through the room, and everything went dark. I stumbled backward, my senses overwhelmed as the darkness consumed me. Then I heard her voice again, softer now, but closer. "You must hurry. Time is running out." The air was thick with unease, and I knew I was on the brink of uncovering something monumental. Would I be able to find the music box and free her spirit? Or was I just tying myself deeper into this mystery? I gasped as the darkness settled around me, as if it was alive. Panic gripped me, and I stumbled backwards, my breath fast and shallow. The chilling voice echoed in my mind, urging me onward. "You must hurry." But how? I was engulfed in shadow, with no sense of direction. Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared ahead. I forced myself to move toward it, my heart pounding. I didn't want to be alone in the dark, haunted by whispers that grew louder with every step. As I approached the source, I realized it was a faint glow, coming from a crack in the hidden door I had just unlocked. I pressed my hand against the doorframe, the key still warm in my palm. I felt a pull, stronger now, like it was a compass needle directing me to something I hadn't yet found. My instincts kicked in, and I pushed the door open. It creaked ominously, revealing a dimly lit room. Inside, dusty antiques lay strewn about, a scattered music stand, rickety chairs, and stacks of sheet music yellowed by time. And there, at the center of it all, was a small chest, intricately designed, with faint carvings of flowers winding up its sides. The chest was old and worn, just like the woman I had seen, and I knew I had to open it. I approached it cautiously. The whispers turned into a faint melody. It was the same tune the piano had played, echoing the urgency of the moment. I knelt down, trembling hands reaching for the latch. This was it. This was what they were desperate for. Then, out of nowhere, a cold gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the dim glow. I froze, blinking into the darkness, uncertain of what was happening. A guttural growl followed the wind, sending icy fear spiraling down my spine. I was not alone anymore. "Leave this place!" a voice roared from the shadows. It was deep and filled with rage, a stark contrast to the woman's mournful pleas. I felt paralyzed, caught between despair and fear. I looked around, searching for the source of the voice, but the darkness hid everything. "Help us!" The woman's voice broke through the storm of anger, desperate and pleading. "You can't let him stop you!" The room pulsed with energy, and I knew I couldn't hesitate. I had to know what lay in the chest. My instincts kicked in again, and I fought through the fear. I reached for the latch, my heart pounding in rhythm with the echoes of the melody. When I finally nudged it open, a torrent of light burst forth, illuminating the chaos in the room. There it was, the music box, glowing with an ethereal light, resting right in the center. I reached for it, feeling the warmth radiate from the delicate surface. As my fingers grazed the box, the growl grew louder, transforming into a furious roar. The shadows swirled back, and I could see them converging, taking shape but never fully appearing. I was running out of time. "Take it!" the woman yelled, her voice now fierce with urgency. "It's our only chance!" I clasped the music box tightly. Everything felt electric. The roar of anger amplified, like storms converging. I turned to face the shadows, ready to fight for the chance to help her and whatever turmoil was bound to this box. In that moment, I felt a resolve I didn't know I had. I wasn't just a witness anymore. I was part of this mystery. And as the shadows loomed closer, I realized that uncovering the truth might cost me everything. The moment I grasped the music box, the air crackled around me. A surge of energy flowed from the delicate surface, filling me with warmth. But the growl was still there, a rumbling threat echoing through the room that I couldn't ignore. I felt the darkness inching closer, menacing and alive. I scanned the room, searching for any sign of escape or a way to confront whatever was in the shadows. My heart raced. "What now?" I whispered to myself, grappling with fear. My gaze landed on the dusty old piano in the corner, its keys slightly protruding like teeth waiting to snap shut. "Play it," the woman urged, her voice trembling slightly, yet strong enough to push me forward. "It can protect you." I barely had time to consider her words before the shadows crept closer, swirling around me like a dark storm. I hurried over to the piano and placed the music box on its surface. The glow from the box pulsed rhythmically, matching the frantic beating of my heart. I took a deep breath and placed my fingers over the keys. The moment I struck the first note, a wave of sound cascaded through the room. It was like the melody had a life of its own, fighting against the roar of darkness. Each note I played felt like a battle cry. I could almost feel the shadows flinch, pausing momentarily, as if the music was a light they couldn't stand to face. But that brief moment of calm shattered when the growling intensified. "Stop!" the voice thundered, filled with a fury that rattled my bones. I was torn between the fear of stopping the music and the dread of what would happen if I didn't. I glanced toward the semi-visible outline of a dark figure within the shadows. I could sense its power, its anger. "You don't belong here!" it bellowed. The words struck me like a slap. The woman's plea echoed in my mind. "Keep playing!" So I played on, forcing my hands to move. The music danced through the air, filling the room with vibrancy, even as my anxiety threatened to derail me. I could feel the shadows pulsating, stretching, changing form in an erratic display of anger and malice. Then, as I played the melody, an unexpected sight caught my eye. The carvings on the music box shifted subtly, almost as if they were alive. The flowers sparkled, revealing tiny flickers of light amid the darkness. Each note I struck seemed to awaken pieces of the box, as if it was responding to the music. "That's it!" the woman cheered, her voice clearer than before. "Trust it!" Suddenly, the shadow lunged toward me, releasing a desperate fury as it tried to break the connection between me and the music box. My fingers flew across the keys, desperation fueling my playing. In the chaos, I caught a glimpse of something even darker behind the figure. It shifted and morphed, revealing countless eyes, each glowing with malevolence. I felt an overwhelming urge to run, but I was anchored to the piano, commanded by a force greater than my fear. Then everything went silent. The growl stopped. The shadows retreated just a fraction, but it was enough for me to feel hope. Just then, the room swirled with brightness, as if the music had unlocked a piece of the darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. I didn't know how long I could keep playing. I glanced at the woman, my heart racing with questions. "What are you? What does this mean?" But before she could respond, the shadows stirred violently again, snarling and howling. The music could only hold them back for so long. I realized that I had to find a way to break the curse that tied them to this place. "Find the truth!" "It's all connected!" As the shadows lunged once more, I braced myself. I had no choice but to dive deeper into the mystery, even if it meant confronting the truth head-on. I had to uncover what lay hidden, even if it put me right in the path of danger. I focused on the piano's keys, drowning in the chaotic sounds around me. The dark figure loomed closer, its shadow stretching out like a claw reaching for me. I pushed myself to play faster, the notes spilling from my fingertips. I had no choice but to trust the woman's words. But the growling returned, louder than before, and I felt it deep in my bones. "Find the truth," echoed in my mind, pushing me to think. What truth? Did it mean the darkness? The music box? I needed more than just a melody to fend off what threatened me. As I continued to play, I spotted something shiny in the cacophony of shadows. There, among the swirling darkness, I caught sight of a glimmer of silver. Curiosity prickled through my fear. I took another breath and closed my eyes for a split second, concentrating on the music as I played. I could feel the music box pulsing beneath my fingertips, and it felt alive. It was connected to something deep and fundamental, something I couldn't grasp yet. When I opened my eyes again, I saw the shiny object was a pendant. It swung back and forth, catching the dim light, and I nearly lost myself in its beauty. Was it a clue or a trap? The dark figure paused, seemingly distracted. I seized that moment to stand, my heart pounding in my chest, and tried to reach for the pendant. The shadows crackled, and the growling shifted from anger to a desperate shriek. I dared to step closer to the darkness, prepared to seize what I had seen. My hand shot out, grabbing it with shaky fingers. The moment I gripped it, a cold shock pulsed through me, causing my muscles to tense. I yanked it back, battling against that force. The darkness twisted around me, furious and unyielding. I could feel the shadows enveloping me again, but I focused on the pendant, examining its intricate details. It had a strange mark etched onto its surface, one that resonated with the carvings of the music box. Tears of frustration brimmed in my eyes. What was this connection? The woman's voice cut through the chaos. "The pendant can reveal the truth," she exclaimed, urgency dripping from her tone. I clutched it harder. How? Suddenly, the music seemed to deepen, almost as if it was aware of my desperation. It hummed pleasantly, the notes now intertwining with an underlying rhythm that vibrated within me. I felt the shadows flinch again, wavering in their assault. "Use it," she commanded. "You have to confront it." Just then, a scream echoed through the room. I spun around, startled. I was not alone. Another figure materialized. From the shadows, a girl, wild-eyed and terrified. "Help me!" she cried, reaching out as if to pull me into the darkness. Fear gripped my heart. Who was she? What was her connection to the shadows? The pendant surged in my hand, hot against my skin. I had limited time. The shadows were building back their strength, and this new presence only added to the chaos swirling around me. I had to act. "Who are you?" I shouted, battling both fear and the haunting growl surrounding us. The girl's voice was merging with the howls, creating a dissonant symphony that threatened to consume me. "I'm part of this," she screamed, lurching toward me. "You must break the curse." Then everything froze. The room plunged into silence. The shadows hushed. A choice lay before me, a path into the unknown, darker than I had ever encountered before. I flicked my eyes between the figures, the girl, the shadows, the music box. I had to know the truth. The silence was deafening.
I felt the weight of the pendant in my hand, its energy throbbing in rhythm with my heartbeat. I glanced toward the girl, her face a mask of fear and desperation. "What do you mean you're part of this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I was trapped," she breathed, stepping closer. "I thought I could escape, but it's tied to me, and to you now." I noticed a faint trace of tears in her eyes. The shadows shuddered, as if they could sense the shift in focus. I could feel their anger creeping back, tightening around me like a vice. I needed to understand. "How do I break the curse?" I demanded. Her expression flickered with a mix of hope and despair. "The pendant holds the key. You need to confront the source of the darkness. But you have to be careful. It feeds on fear." A wave of doubt crashed over me. Could I really face whatever was lurking in the shadows? I had barely survived this far. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The music box beside me whispered a melody, urging me to remember why I was fighting. It held a connection, a thread that could lead me through the darkness. "Tell me what I need to do," I said, steadier now. Before she could respond, a howl erupted from the shadows, sharp and piercing. The dark figure was rekindling its thirst. I could sense its rage intensifying, pushing me back. "You need to listen," the girl shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "Focus on the pendant, the mark. It's a key to reveal the truth." I turned it over in my palm, tracing the edges with my fingers. The designs were unnervingly familiar. Something tugged at the corner of my memory. "Wait, I've seen this before," I murmured, half to myself. "Yes," she cried, "you must play the right melody. It will call out to the shadows, to the—"
Truth! The growing howl grew louder, echoing my uncertainty. My heart raced. But what if— "No more doubts," she insisted. "The longer you wait, the stronger the shadows will become. You have to act." Everything around me shifted. The shadows pulsed and quaked, as if sensing my rising resolve. I could either stand frozen in fear or dive into the unknown, risking everything to confront whatever haunted me and this girl. Clutching the pendant tight, I returned to the piano. The keys felt familiar beneath my fingertips. I closed my eyes and allowed the music to envelop me, drawing from the depths of my memory. The melody emerged, almost like a forgotten lullaby. As I played, I felt the energy of the pendulum sync with my notes. The shadows shrieked, a sound of confusion and rage. They writhed, twisting away as if the music was cutting through them. I opened my eyes, and the dark figure faltered, hesitating at the edge of light. The girl stood at my side, her eyes shimmering with newfound determination. "You're doing it," she encouraged, eyes wide with hope. But almost instantly, a sudden horrific screech filled the air. "I can't stop now," I thought desperately. And then it happened. I struck the final chord, and the room plunged into darkness again. A searing light erupted from the pendant, illuminating everything for just a heartbeat. When it faded, I felt a chill creep over me. Something had changed. The girl was gone, and the shadows were retreating. But my heart sank. I could see a figure emerging from the corner of my eye, its identity shadowed yet familiar. My breath caught in my throat. I wasn't done. I had to face whatever truth waited for me in the dark. The figure stepped forward from the darkness, and I squinted to see it clearly. My heartbeat pounding loudly in my ears as recognition washed over me. It was my sister, Sarah. I hadn't seen her in years, but something was off, something different about the way she moved, the way her eyes glinted with an unsettling sheen. "Why are you here?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I came to find you. You need to understand." The shadow stirred, skimming around the edges of the room and pulling closer to the pairs of us. "Understand what?" I wanted to demand, the urgency in my chest fluttering like a trapped bird. but dread clawed at my throat, making it difficult to speak. "Everything," she said, her voice almost a purr. "About the pendant. About why you're here." "What do you know?" I asked, feeling the weight of the past pressing down on me. "I was the one who left it for you," she said, stepping closer. "I wanted to help you, but it's not as simple as that. You must confront the truth of our family. The darkness. It
Was never just around you. It's inherited. A chill licked up my spine. Her words wrapped around me, tangling me in confusion. Inherited? I repeated, my mind racing. What do you mean? Mom and Dad were involved in things you don't know about, she said, anxiety creeping into her voice. Things that opened doors we weren't supposed to open. The shadows, they feed on our fears, our mistakes. What mistakes? I asked, feeling an old anger bubbling to the surface. Mom thought she could manage it, Sarah continued, her tone softening. But she was wrong. It consumed her. And now it wants you. You're the last hope, but also the last target. The shadows were moving faster now, whispering words I couldn't understand, wrapping around my feet like snakes. I wanted to scream, to run. "You don't know what you're talking about," I shouted, but my voice was shaky. "Do you think this is just random?" she pressed, her eyes narrowing. "You were always drawn to these things. The music box, the pendant. It calls to you because it is a part of us." I felt my heart racing as her revelations settled in. "You're saying you left this for me? Why didn't you come to me?" "Because I couldn't. I was trapped, just like that girl." She glanced past me to where the shadows were still writhing, a deep unease clouding her face. "You have to play the right tune again, the one that brings light to the shadows. But you need to know the truth first." Before I could ask her another question, the shadows lunged, engulfing her in a veil of darkness. "Sarah!" I screamed, reaching out to grab her hand, but she vanished like smoke. I was left standing alone, feeling the weight of the pendant pulse with urgency. It demanded answers, and now I knew I needed to face my family's past to find them. That's when I saw it. A crack in the wall where the shadows had pulled back. A faint light flickered behind it, almost like a heartbeat. I hesitated, but I couldn't ignore it. The truth was there, pulling me closer. I took a step forward, heart racing. Whatever lay beyond would shape everything. I pushed against the wall, my fingers trembling. The shadows still loomed, but did not advance. Then everything went dark again. A familiar tune began to play from the depths of the shadows, and I felt hope and fear intertwine. If I wanted to save Sarah, I had to play. I had to confront not just the darkness, but our shared history. I pressed my palm against the crack, feeling a soft pulsing that matched the rhythm of the music humming around me. The shadows were almost alive, inching closer, as if sensing my fear. Could I really face whatever lay beyond? With a deep breath, I shoved my weight against the wall. To my surprise, it shifted, granting me access to a narrow passageway. Light flickered more brightly, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. I stepped forward, drawn by an inexplicable urge to know more. As I entered the passage, the shadows receded behind me, as if respecting the boundaries of what I was about to uncover. The air turned cold, the kind of cold that burrows deep into your bones. Whispers floated around me, snippets of conversations that seemed both familiar and foreign. "Leave, before it's too late," a voice barely reached me. I shook my head, trying to clear my mind. "Why won't anyone just tell me what I need to know?" I shouted into the darkness. But my voice echoed back, alone, swallowed by the shadows. Suddenly, I spotted something glimmering on the ground. I crouched down, brushing away dust to reveal a tarnished locket. My heart skipped.
It looked just like the one Mom used to wear. I flipped it open, and my breath caught. Inside was a picture of Sarah and me, a happy moment captured in time, untouched by darkness. But beneath our smiles, there was an inscription, "To always remember." Remember what? I couldn't make sense of it. My mind raced, flooded with memories of Sarah before everything went wrong. The laughter, the secrets, the night she disappeared. I stood up, clutching the locket tightly. A sudden draft whipped through the passageway, extinguishing the light and plunging me into darkness. I stumbled back, heart racing. This time, however, I could hear a faint chuckle, low and mocking, cracking like thunder. "Welcome back," the voice said, dripping with malice. Panic surged through me. "Who's there?" I demanded, but every word felt swallowed by the depths of the shadows. "I've been waiting for you," the voice crooned. "You're just like your sister, curious, brave, and reckless." A chilling realization hit me. The darkness was not just an enemy. It was aware of us, feeding off our fears and insecurities. My hands trembled, and I tightened my grip around the locket. "Show yourself," I shouted, though I doubted my own bravery. A shadow detached itself from the wall, slowly taking shape. The outline was familiar, but twisted, like a distorted reflection in broken glass. "You have much to learn," it said, its voice slithering through the air, wrapping around me. "Will you accept your legacy, or will you let it consume you?" I took a step back, fear flooding my veins. "What do you want?" "To teach you," it replied, bright eyes glinting with a promise and a threat. "The shadows are your family's inheritance. Embrace them, or be lost to them." Before I could respond, the shadows surged forward, enveloping me again. I was pulled deeper into the void, the locket slipping from my fingers as darkness swallowed me whole. And just like that, I was left teetering on the edge of my fate. Would I emerge whole, or would I be consumed by the past I had tried so hard to escape? In that moment, one thought broke through. I had to find Sarah. If she could be saved, maybe, just maybe, I could save myself too. I emerged from the depths of the shadowed passage, disoriented and trembling. The haunting whispers swirled around me, urging me to remember, to face the reality of my family's legacy. I felt a flicker of light at my core, but it battled incessantly with the encroaching darkness. "Sarah!" I shouted again, desperation clawing at my throat. Her name hung in the air, echoing into the suffocating void. Would I ever find her, or was she lost forever to whatever sinister force had ensnared us both? The laughter from earlier rang in my ears again, a mocking chorus of every doubt I'd ever harbored. I rushed through the narrow passage, determined to escape its grip, but the shadows lingered close, eager to reclaim me. Suddenly, I stumbled upon a cramped room that felt out of sync with the rest of the darkness. Here, a circle of faint light hung above an old wooden table, littered with scattered notes and photographs. I approached cautiously and caught my breath. One of the photographs caught my eye. It showed a younger version of Sarah, clutching a music box, her eyes sparkling, surrounded by what I now recognized as our mother, her face radiating warmth that was now a stark contrast to this unsettling atmosphere. I picked it up, running my fingers over its surface. There was a note attached. "Trust your heart. The music will guide you." Tears prickled my eyes. Would this be the key to breaking the curse that haunted our family? Clutching the photograph to my chest, my resolve strengthened. I would not let the shadows win. Just as I turned to leave, I spotted the glimmering pendant I had dropped earlier, casting a faint glow on the ground. I bent down to retrieve it, the cold metal tonic against my palm. That same melody arose in my mind, a gentle caress that urged me forward. Feeling powered by that familiar music, I rushed toward the doorway, only to catch sight of the twisted figure lurking just beyond the light. There was a strange comfort in knowing it recognized me now, that it had been waiting. "I will not be consumed," I shouted defiantly. "My family's fears will not dictate my fate." The laughter morphed into an annoyed snarl. The air thickened, as if the darkness recoiled from my words. I pressed forward, pulsating with newfound energy. "I will rescue Sarah, and we will lift this curse together." In that moment, I channeled the lingering notes that played in my spirit, reaching for the heart of the music box that lay waiting in the shadows. Every note honed my senses sharper than any blade. I placed my palm against the old wood as a rush of wind whipped through the room. Then the shadows lunged, eager to pull me into their fold once more. But as I opened the music box, a blinding light
Fractured the darkness, and there she was, Sarah, appearing for the briefest of moments, her face a mixture of hope and urgency. "Play it," she mouthed, the shadows giving her form a ghostly glow before beginning to pull her back into the void. "No!" I screamed. "Not again!" With the pendant clutched tightly, I took a deep breath. I had to believe. I placed my fingers at the keys and began to play. The melody filled the room, a powerful hymn that interwove our family's legacy, both shadow and light. As the notes soared, the darkness howled, lifting and swaying with the rhythm I conjured. I was drawing upon every ounce of strength and pain deep-rooted in my past, weaving it into the symphony that might finally set it all free. The shadows began to retreat, their forms shivering and pulling away, the light pushing them back. And then, out of the hum, I heard her voice, the music reaching her where she lingered. "Together," she whispered, as the room shimmered with moments of us being happy, memories we had made before everything went wrong. It was fleeting, but electrifying. The shadows diminished, until finally, as I struck the last note with all my heart, there was silence. The echoes of my playing lingered as I peered into the darkness, breathless. Where there had once been a figure haunted by despair, I could now see only fading shadows. The oppressive weight lifted from the air, leaving behind an unsettling peace. As I stood trembling yet exhilarated, the music box glowed warmly in my hands, resonating with the deep bond I still held. I hadn't just faced the darkness, I had learned to let the legacy of love guide me into the light. But as I turned to leave, the memories flickered like fireflies. I realized I hadn't entirely escaped the shadows. My connection to them was forever embedded in me. The echoes of whispers remained, reminding me of the mystery I'd yet to untangle fully. I took one last look behind me, contemplating the depth of my family's history and its intertwining with my own. I will uncover the truth I promised the lingering shadows, whatever they were. And as I stepped out into the corridor, I felt something stir behind me, leaving uncertainty in its wake. I had survived, yet the road ahead still held unanswered questions, and, amidst the weight of it all, I sensed, could that music box still be the key to more than just escape?